Hello you guys and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. And in today's video I want to talk to you about America's Next Top Model, the reality TV show that I used to be a big fan of when I was younger, and the attempt at taking accountability from Tyra and crew members called Reality Check that premiered on Netflix a few weeks ago. Let's talk about this. I have many opinions. I used to watch this show religiously. I used to love it so very much as a teenager again, like I said, and I want to talk to you specifically about why I consequentially stopped watching the show. I have some opinions. Let's get straight to it. Let's start with talking about the duality of Tyra's public persona. Everybody has been slamming Tyra for the questionable choices made during the filming of the reality TV show of America's Next Top Model, but I would like to start with the positive parts before we get to the bad part, right? So I took a lot of notes, by the way, so I'm going to be looking down at them because I have a lot to say about this, and I really hope that I can get through this cohesively and coherently. I'll give it my best shot. Wish me good luck. Also, please, I really hope you appreciate the makeup that I did for this video. I'm wearing pink mascara, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. You probably cannot, but I tried really hard. Let's get started. There is very distinctive duality to Tyra's public persona. On the one hand, we have a successful, inspiring businesswoman / entrepreneur, which Tyra really liked calling herself back in the day. And there is also a greedy producer. Let's start with the successful businesswoman first. So Tyra had a few, on my memory, 2 TV shows. And I want to talk to you about specifically her second TV show that she had not in the early 2000s, which she was kind of decently popular for. And that show kind of made her more famous because of the very questionable and very, very ridiculous topics that were discussed and very interesting guests that were brought on, and the bizarre questions that they were asked, and just the topics that were discussed in general, really. I'm talking about the TV show that Tyra had in 2010s. And I think it is really, really unjust and unfair to deny Tyra all of the inspiration that she brought onto thousands and maybe millions of women who watched the TV show and watched her talk and inspire women all over the world, practically talking about her entrepreneurial experiences, talking about going to Harvard Business School, even though, yes, we know she basically she paid for the program. And this is something that people, I feel like, used to slam her and diminish her accomplishments. I always really respected Tyra for doing all these things, to be honest with you. I did respect her for going to Harvard Business School. She did pay for the course. It was a short course. She still did it. She didn't have to do it, but I do respect her for it. I also respect her for starting multiple businesses, not necessarily being successful in all of them, but still pushing forward and not giving up. I think that's a very admirable quality, and I definitely cannot find anything to slam her for in here, to be honest with you. You don't have to be successful in absolutely everything that you do. But what I do admire is how ambitious she always was, and how supportive of other women she was. On that second TV show that I talk about, that I did not watch the full episodes, by the way. I could only catch little moments here and there on YouTube. And from what I saw, she was doing a lot of talks inspiring women to start their own businesses, inspiring them to look better, inspiring them to be more confident during business meetings and while pitching their ideas, all those kinds of things. And I do really respect her for that, because I personally can definitely tell you that I was very inspired and I took a lot of inspiration. And I definitely got a lot of confidence back in the day from Tyra's talks, and from her interviews and stuff like that. Not all of them, I just have to make that clear. But those conversations were definitely very helpful and inspiring. And I do respect her for that, okay? I do want to get that out of the way before we get to the slamming. I can probably credit Tyra for, I'm sure, a lot of women all over the world getting inspired and starting their own businesses and becoming more confident, all those kinds of things. Now, when it comes to the America's Next Top Model, originally the show was started allegedly, right, with the premise of Tyra wanting to change the modeling industry, change the idea of what a model is, and introducing more diversity into the fashion industry so that a model is not just a stick thin white woman, okay? A white girl, should I say, because obviously it's supposed to be really young. Now let's talk about how successful that mission was in actuality, because diversity would mean introduction of models of different races, different nationalities, different sizes, different body types, and honestly, in my personal opinion, also different ages. In my experience, that was never done. I never saw throughout all of these cycles and seasons all the cycles and episodes that I personally have seen, I've never seen models that were like middle-aged or older. Please tell me if that actually ever happened, because I never saw that. Maybe that was introduced. I just never caught that, you know? But we also know that in later cycles, there were men introduced into the show. I, at that point, didn't care about the show anymore. So I really don't care. I didn't even talk about this. Like, good for them, I guess. Okay. Now, as for the actual diversity, I listen to a lot of people give their opinions about this, and I do have to say that the reason that we are able to criticize Starry about all these things is partially thanks to her and thanks to her doing something, something in order to introduce more diversity into the modeling industry. So we do have to give her at least a little bit of credit for doing something, because I do understand. I'm not going to use the excuse that it was a different time and different standard and all those things. I do understand that, but if your premise is to change the industry, to push forward change and diversity, you kind of have to stick with that and do exactly that rather than the opposite, because otherwise, what's the point of even making any claims? So there is that. But she did do a little bit of something in order to introduce more models of color. They were maybe like a couple of girls. They were bigger sizes, like a plus size models, right? Who, by the way, were like heavily slammed and criticized for their appearances and their body shapes and sizes on the show for whatever reason, even though the way they look was supposed to be exactly the reason they made it to the show. And they were chosen by the crew members and the staff. So why are we criticizing these girls? Once again, I don't understand. I just don't get that. So there is that. So not enough diversity, but even just a little bit of diversity being introduced is a good thing. But then we have the issue of makeovers. And a panel of judges criticizing the models. Once again, makeovers were fun to watch in the beginning. They became really, really painful to watch moving forward, because it seemed like the crew members really just wanted to go with the idea of the reality TV show instead of a TV show about models, right? Again, I do understand that the producers on the show, whoever else, the higher ups on the show, wanted the ratings, wanted the views. They did not believe that models are smart people, that they're people at all, that, it would be a successful show if it was just about the models. So they had to introduce the drama. However, this is what the second part of Tyra being a greedy producer comes, because I don't really believe, to be honest with you, that they did not think that they had to keep pushing with the drama and kind of accelerate it with every cycle in order to keep the views and the ratings high, because the show was really, really successful and it was incredibly popular, honestly, all over the world, right? There were so many franchises. There were so many variations of the show in so many different countries in the world. So clearly it was really, really popular. And like young women really loved it. The girls really loved it. Like the gays loved it. It was fun, okay? Did they really have to keep pushing with the drama? I don't understand. I personally hate the drama. I'll be honest with you. I do not like, especially when the drama is being pushed for the sake of drama. That makes it kind of unwatchable for me. It stresses me out. I don't enjoy any part of that. So I would really love to watch a show just about models competing for the status of America's Next Top Model with whatever gifts and prizes they had at the end, signing a modeling contract with a very prestigious modeling agency in the US, or was it in Italy? I don't remember at this point. Magazine cover, brand deals, stuff like that. That was already fun and cool, but I'm guessing the ratings and the views that they had at the time was maybe not enough. I have a feeling that they wanted more. I have a feeling that they wanted more because I don't believe that the show was unsuccessful. We all know the show was very successful. I do believe that they wanted more views and more ratings, and they wanted the show to expand further. They wanted it to be even bigger, so they had to push with the drama. They had to make very questionable choices. They didn't have to do that, by the way, but they chose to do those things in order to keep the show more relevant. But I feel like that is exactly what kind of pushed people away from it in the first place, because it just made it hard to watch a lot of the times. Here's what I find absolutely ridiculous. Every single girl that you saw on the show was handpicked by the crew member, by the staff, by the producer, right? Every single girl. There is no lack of beautiful girls or like interesting looking girls and women all over the world. And yet they chose those specific girls for every single cycle. And then you see they have all the background information on them, by the way. They have all their personal histories, all the data on them, all the information, all the details. And then they bring these girls and they talk to them about the things that have absolutely nothing to do with their looks, with their hobbies, and with modeling, which is the whole point of the show. Why are we supposed to care about very bizarre family dramas? Why are we supposed to care about very deeply disturbing things that happen to some of these girls in the past, in their personal lives and stuff like that? Why is that supposed to be brought forward so aggressively, and why are these girls being judged as well? Why are the girls being judged for certain things that they did in the past? Why are we making that the point of the show? Why are we questioning whether or not they're good enough to participate when they have already been chosen and brought for filming? Please tell me, why was that choice made? I could never understand why some of the girls were judged for doing sex work or like doing escorting. Some of the girls were judged for doing Playboy shoots. If anything, that is modeling experience. Like, why are we acting holier than thou? Why are you acting as if that is unacceptable when you handpicked this girl, when you chose her for the show? Nobody knows about this shoot. Now everybody knows. Nobody really cares, as far as I can tell. Why are we judging her for the choice she made when she was, 18 years old? Again, I do understand this was done for the sake of the drama. I could never get any joy from that. This was not enjoyable for me because this just looks really ridiculous once you think about it. You choose these girls and then you're judging them for some family drama or for something that they went through, for something horrifying and something traumatic that happened to them in the past. Why are we bringing that forward? Why are we making it more of a TV drama reality show rather than a show about young women competing to become America's Next Top Model? Their personal lives are supposed to be completely irrelevant to us. And that is what I wish was done instead. But we kept getting more of the drama, more of the like reality side of it, more of the completely unnecessary, judgmental and weird moments. I could never understand that. I hated that, and once again, that's something that I could never support. And then of course we have all of the, honestly, a lot of really disgusting moments when we are, again, I'm not even talking about the photo shoots when the models were like were made to swap the races and nationalities. Again, could never understand that. That just was such a weird premise to me and such a weird idea. Like people have said everything that there is to be said about this already, so I'm not going to add to that. This is just ridiculous. It's honestly ridiculous. Besides all of the moments where it's like offensive and it's bizarre, it's just ridiculous. It's just a very weird idea. It's not necessary. It's weird in a bad way, you know? It's very weird. Using the model's personal trauma in the ideas for the photo shoots. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The girls doing photo shoots in their graves after burying their best friend, doing photo shoots portraying different eating disorders. None of that was necessary. Also, like, nobody really does that in the modeling industry. Those nobody does those kind of photo shoots in magazines. Nobody really does that, you know. And if people do them, if people do questionable, kind of controversial photo shoots, which nobody does that so much anymore, but whenever people do that, it's consensual. You're supposed to consent to that. You're not supposed to made to do those things. You're not supposed to be pushed into that. These things are supposed to be consensual. You're supposed to feel comfortable on the set. The fact that so many things were unconsensual and girls were pushed into these things under the guise of, well, you have to, there is a prize at the end. This is like, are you strong enough? Are you willing? Are you passionate enough about the industry? Like, do you really want this? It was really pushed on the girls that if you're not willing to do absolutely anything without questions asked, you are not committed enough. You're not hardworking enough. You're not determined enough. You're not ambitious enough. You're not good enough, ultimately. And that is also something that always felt really uncomfortable for me, even as a teenager watching this and thinking how these girls were supposed to be taught how to be good models. They're supposed to be taught the skills. They were supposed to be taught how to be confident. That's the only things that were supposed to be discussed on the show, in my personal opinion. Okay? And the moments when that was discussed were my favorite moments in the show. And I did gain a lot of confidence from it, especially as an insecure teenager, okay? Surviving being a teenager. Like, surviving being a teenage girl, basically. So those were the moments that I was living for. All of the moments when the girls, who were, again, handpicked to participate in the show, were torn apart for their looks. It's one thing to do hair extensions and dye someone's hair, or some extensions were done really, really badly, however, or like do a bob, you know, and some of the makeovers were exceptional. Like, some of them were extremely successful. A lot of them were quite ugly. And again, that was just such a bizarre choice. I don't get why I do understand. They wanted the girls to cry. They wanted the ratings. But that sends a bad message. That sends a very, very bad message. No one is going to force cut your hair and force dye it. It was introduced to us as if, again, you have to have zero will of your own. You have to be doing the most at first request. And especially now we know what was happening in the modeling industry, especially back in the day. How many predatory behaviors were displayed by photographers, by clients, by the bookers, and somebody who is supposed to be bringing in change, especially positive change, is teaching the girls to do whatever it takes, to not question anything, to not argue with anybody, to not defend yourself. That's the thing. Again, the girls were taught to be completely agreeable. They were not taught to defend themselves, to stand up for themselves, to be actually confident, and to stand their ground. They were criticized very heavily whenever they actually defended themselves. And pretty much all of the times when that happened on the show, I noticed the girls were really respectful about this. They were really good at setting boundaries and being very respectful while disagreeing. The girls were treated absolutely horribly for respectfully disagreeing with the judges. Respectfully. A lot of the times it was completely respectful and done very, very well by the girls. And they were slammed for that. And they were treated like they were so problematic, so unlikable, that they would be so difficult to work with and that nobody would want to work with them. What kind of change did you want to bring to the industry if that is what you're doing? That is not changing. That is keeping things exactly as they are, to keep everybody who's doing horrible things comfortable and safe. that's the only thing that was being done by that. And I was always really frustrated by that, especially as I got older and I learned about, again, all the horrible things that happened, that happen on sets and in the agencies and stuff like that. It's just, especially to like really young girls, but this is horrendous. The amount of times when the girls were asked to get naked and completely slammed when they disagreed, be it for their religious views, for their moral and like ethical views, or whatever it is. Some of them just didn't want to. And they were slammed really, really hard for not doing that. They were told that they're not committed enough, that they're not good enough, that they are not going to survive in the industry. But aren't we trying to push forward a positive change in the industry? Or what is going on? Of course, there are completely, again, like I said before, right, completely unforgivable, irredeemable things that were done on the show. And I'm not even talking about the cases. Well, actually, you know what? I'm not talking about the cases when, like, we had some bad haircuts, right? Even though some girls were harmed pretty badly during those. Like, one of the girls was, like, had her scalp burned by bleach. And then the girl was criticized for crying and for being upset and for not being grateful. She was supposed to be grateful for someone burning her scalp with bleach. Okay. All right. The girls were supposed to be brought to work with the best hairstylists and the best professionals in the industry, and yet there were so many black models who were treated absolutely horribly, and did not have anybody around them who knew how to work on their hair. What happened to the best professionals in the industry? And like, especially for Tyra as a black woman, I feel like that was supposed to be so incredibly clear and so obvious how important it is to bring on set people who know how to work with black women, how to work with with their hair, with their hair texture, what tools to have, how to work with it, how to not hurt the models, how to not damage their hair, how to do the work professionally, how to do it right, how to actually do a good job. Those people were, as far as I remember, never present on sets. They were only people who had no idea how to work with black girls. What diversity are we talking about? What change are we trying to bring? That sounds like exactly not moving forward. It sounds like staying exactly where we are. And that was also extremely frustrating, again, with those girls were being slammed for crying, for being upset, for being hurt. Like that just blew my mind. It was so ridiculous. And that just, I don't understand people who enjoyed watching those parts. Like, that's just, a lot of the times it just looked like torture to me, to be honest with you. And now we get to the part that is just the worst of all of them on like my memory personally. And again, this is something that I don't remember necessarily watching on TV. Like, those memories are quite blurry, but people have been talking about them a lot recently, is when they recorded, oh my goodness, an act of essay for the show. They recorded something horrible happening to one of the girls when she was drunk. And she did not remember anything happening. They recorded the whole thing. Like, what comes to my mind, first of all, is like, how can something like this ever be legal? How can it, that just blows my mind. If you do happen to record this, aren't you supposed to just use that as evidence in court? I'm sorry. Is that not so obvious? I'm so just shocked and horrified about this. And then they go on to embarrass this girl and convince her that she was cheating on her boyfriend. And they made her call him and recorded it while she was crying and he was yelling at her. And like, it's just, that whole situation was really hard to watch. When I was like rewatching those moments, and them talking about this so unapologetically is, again, I don't understand what kind of redemption arc they want, because it seems like that's what they wanted. I'm not seeing anybody take any kind of accountability. Nobody displayed regret. Nobody even pretended to be sorry, like really sorry. That's when I truly draw the line. Like, this is unforgivable, in my opinion. Completely unforgivable. Now, let's talk about the Jays for a second, because everybody kept talking about how the Jays are so great and how it's Tyra who's the monster and the villain. I find it very interesting when absolutely nobody apologized. Nobody really apologized for all of these things. They needed to apologize multiple times for multiple different things that were done, and nobody did a thing. Nobody did a thing. Nobody displayed how sorry they were. The Jays kept slamming Tyra, which I found to be very interesting, again. Even though when you look at the clips with them, a lot of the times those ideas belong to them, or they had to execute those ideas. A lot of the times they made some of the nastiest and the meanest comments to the girls that were so unnecessary, obviously. And when you see those things, it was just getting really hard for me to excuse them and to pretend like there was only one villain in this story, which is Tyra. Because that's not true. That's not true at all. A lot of these crew members, a lot of the judges were extremely supportive of the models at times, but at other times, all of them did a lot of damage. And all of them are equally guilty. And you know that. And you know that if you've seen the show, if you've seen anything at all, if you've seen the documentary, if you've seen bits and pieces from Reality Check or from the actual show, again, you have seen everybody make disgusting comments and be really, really questionable and problematic towards the girls. I just can't let that go, you know? Now, listen, to conclude all of this, I was thinking about this, right? I was thinking about this whole topic, and I realized that if Tyra truly wanted to make change, especially later on, when she had a lot more popularity, when she had a lot more fame, when she had the whole momentum with the show going on, right? And she still kept working as a model. She did that Victoria's Secret show, like, as in, like, later on. And she had a lot of wealth, obviously, right? There was something that Tyra could genuinely do in order to push forward positive change in the modeling industry while also keep making money. Again, like, I just don't understand being evil and being nasty and being greedy and just doing the most for your own, like, for your own good and hurting other people in the process. You could do something extremely positive and really good for the industry and for yourself. I was thinking about this and I realized that it would be a really fantastic idea for Tyra at the time, not right now, but at the time, for Tyra to open her own modeling agency. Kate Moss did that. I'm not sure if she was... Kate Moss was not talking about any like diversity and any special agenda as far as I know. But that's what Tyra loudly wanted, right? So she could have opened her own modeling agency, hired bookers and the agents by herself, instructed them to be nice to the girls, to be open-minded, and to aim to diversify the industry. The industry really badly needed to be diversified. That is absolutely true. And that is something that Tyra could do in order to actually bring forward the positive change. There would be clients who would be hiring diverse models. There absolutely would be clients. It could also be just a small boutique agency, and Tyra could run it to see how successful it would be. I'm sure she had the means for that. I'm just really upset about this opportunity that was lost, because I feel like that truly is something that could bring forward the change. And at the end of the, every cycle, the price could be signing up with like Tyra's agency, where she would like guarantee the models some jobs, right? And she would still do some like brand deals with them, and she could maybe even diversify later on and do like a marketing agency and like influencer agency when she would be working with influencers and models on Instagram and stuff like that. Like, there's just such an infinite pool of actually positive ideas that could be pushed forward and actually executed, especially towards like late 2010s and early 2020s. Anyways, that's just something that I was thinking about, something that I had in mind. And tell me what you think about this in the comments. Please do let me know what you think about this in the comments. There's so many things to honestly say about this whole thing. So yes, please let me know what you think about this whole thing and about this video in the comments. Thank you very much, you guys, for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that you found it entertaining at the very least, that you maybe heard some ideas that you were thinking about yourself, that like resonated with you. Do you feel strongly about this? Did you watch the show? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Like, did you start hating the show just like me because of all the drama over the years and just like stopped watching it? Like, what do you think about this whole thing? Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, you guys, for more videos about self-love, about healing, about motivation, about self-growth, self-development, and all of those positive things like that. I love you so very much, and I will see you in the next one.